What's up, everybody? We are excited to be back with you guys yet again in the studio. Little bit of awkward camera setup today, but we're very excited because we have a very special guest with us today. Because we get to choose who we want to be on here.
Yep.
So we especially love this guest. We have our middle son, Gage. We had a couple weeks ago an episode where we played a recording of him in Africa. And so we're excited to have him on as a guest today to hear his missionary heart and to hopefully inspire you to be bold for Christ. And I love that we actually, I feel like, are in this shift in culture where our young people are becoming more and more bold for Christ, and it's making me really excited. And so I love getting a chance to see Gage, you step into that. It's really an amazing thing as a parent to get a chance to see your heart for Jesus. So welcome to the studio.
Yeah.
Cool.
Super excited.
Cool. We're going to see how you handle the microphone and the camera and all that stuff today. So it's going to be an interesting experiment.
Yeah.
I gave Gage my chair today because he has a tendency to shift around like his dad
It's a
does.
very comfortable chair.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I really like it.
You think that I sound clearer having to keep my face right here in an uncomfortable position.
I do.
So that's fun for me.
I mean, in the arm one, you could just move the mic.
You're going to
As your
demote me
face.
is what's going to happen. From now on, I'm going to be over here like just uncomfortable the whole time with back to the stand mic.
You
Back
just
to,
made like a little troll.
yeah, because I remember our OG days where we had one mic and we were both huddling over it, smelling each other's breath. And I guess maybe you're just going to bring me back to those days. Okay.
Back to our
not
roots.
even arguing. Okay. Fabulous.
Back to the roots.
Well, we are going to be doing this podcast similar to how we always do, which is unedited. We're going to ask questions and we're going to let the Holy Spirit just move. And so we're just going to start off. Gage, I think that you have gone to places that I know I've never wanted to go. What? You're looking at me like I am making a mistake.
Well, no, you're not making a mistake. I was just gonna say that since I don't even remember. I was gonna ask this question because before you got like deep into what he just came from, you've gone on how many mission trips so far?
I think three.
So your first one was to
Thailand and Cambodia.
That was the first one.
Yeah.
And then your second one,
Republic of Georgia.
and
now
Tanzania.
Africa.
Or is it Tanzania or Tanzania?
They say Tanzania, but they said since we're white, we could say Tanzania.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So, but ever since you were younger, like your first one was, do you remember how old you
I
were?
was 15 or 16.
I think 16.
16.
When you're 16. So from your first one, you were so excited to go. But one of the main reasons you were excited is because it was not going to be comfortable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like
I remember
that's what it was. And I remember you even saying that there was one you didn't go to, another group, and they went to Poland.
Yeah.
And it was, they did good work over there, but it was pretty cush in comparison to the Thailand, right? Cambodia one that you went on, right? So it was pretty, it was like a big difference. And you were like, well, I'm glad I didn't go to that one because you've always had this adventure heart. And so you always want to step into the uncomfortable. Like that's what, right? I like I'm tracking?
Yeah.
I'm locked in?
Yeah.
As you say?
In.
Okay, perfect. So no, but he always wants to stay, or he always has this adventure heart, and then he wants to go to these hard places, and then God has put that in you. And so then now it's like you're taking it to like this whole other level, right?
That's all you got?
Yeah. What am I supposed to say to that?
I don't know. You respond like your dad. It takes like 5 minutes to like get into just like I'll ask the most like intense questions, and your dad's just like, "Yep."
So okay, so here's a question. Then.
Okay.
So to help you out, so what? God has put this in your heart, but what exactly is it that God has put in your heart, and why? If I can give you a two-part.
Okay.
All right. And then why do you want to step into that uncomfortable?
Well, I feel like for me, it goes back to the verse in Acts. I think it's Acts 1:8, where it says, "Go out to the ends of the world." And I remember the moment I really felt like, obviously, this adventure has been in me for like my entire life. But I feel like the minute that it was like emphasized that this was God was during my DTS. I think it was like week 2 or 3, where they were like, "Okay, your homework," is the only time we got homework. They were like, "I want you to pray about what your burning heart is and then post it on Instagram or some sort of social media platform and tell people." So I remember I was praying like, "God, what is my burning heart?" And I remember him telling me like, there's so many tribes and villages and people groups and languages I've never heard the gospel because somebody said no to going. It's like we say the ends of the world and we see like this massive mountain or this river or this jungle or forest or war or whatever that might look like, and then we don't go. And those people end up dying without hearing somebody tell them the gospel, you know? And I kind of had like this image pop in my brain where it was like somebody standing before God's throne. And they're like, "I never got to know you. I never knew it was you I was looking for. I never knew you. You know why?" And he's like, "I heard you guys calling out to me. And I tried sending my children, but they all said no. I tried." You know? And so I feel like the Lord's like really put that in me of like, some people have to say yes to this. Some people do have to take up that mantle and be like, "Okay, I will go to the ends of the world." Like the actual ends of the world, not like these places that we claim are the frontier, like really getting out there.
Not the border of El Paso.
Literally, yeah. And so I feel like I answered both of those in one, or did I forget one?
No.
Fire.
That's all you got?
Are you looking at me? Oh, okay. I thought you kept saying that to Gage.
No.
Okay.
Well, I thought she was saying that to me too.
All right. So walk us through, like, because, you know, so everyone on here, if you've listened regularly, you've heard us. Our daughter went to DTS in Kentucky with YWAM, Youth with a Mission. And then Gage went to Youth with a Mission, DTS in Kona, which is like the main hub, right? Like that's like their main campus. Went there. So you guys have heard of YWAM, you've heard of what he's done, but so walk us through what DTS. So you were on fire prior to going, right? Like you have this, so something that you know, the adventure heart you have, and then just the chasing after God. We've seen that you know, with your worship, with everything you do, like you already had this passion, and then you go to DTS. So walk us through DTS and what that did prior to you going to your missions, your outreach.
I like to say the lecture phase for DTS is like a boot camp for your faith. You know, like they really put you in a place of asking the hard questions, and you really understand who God is and the identity he's put over you. So DTS is one of the only schools that's like self-centered, you could say. It's really emphasizing on who is God and who does he say I am. Because you can't really walk in this boldness or this faith until you actually know who you are in Christ. You know, that's where that confidence comes in, when you're confident in who God said you are. So I feel like the whole DTS could be summed up in that. Is like learning your identity in Christ and learning how to be confident in that. And like learning like what he says in the scriptures are not just like words, they're all real. You know, and like you encounter God in like really real ways. And they do a lot of activation too. And so it's like very much like, okay, like we are going to show you what it means to actually be a disciple. You know, like picking up your cross daily, like literally being in a place where you're actually willing to die for Christ. Not just like, oh, I'll die for Jesus. Like, no, like really understanding what that means. But yeah, I think that's how it'd sum up that 3 months of
I think
lectures.
That's so powerful, because you see why the enemy is so after identity.
Oh yeah.
You know, I mean, culturally, right? There's just like these so many young people struggling to find their identity, looking to find their identity in their sexuality, find their identity in like all of these other areas where ultimately when you know who Christ says you are, you can stand in a solid place. But really at the root of so many things in our world today and in our own failings is because we did not stand in our identity in Christ. And I think that's a powerful thing to recognize, just what a big deal that is. like, and how you have to walk that out, like who he says that you are. So I think that's really an amazing thing to actually, to know that at 18 years old is really unbelievable.
Well, I like that you threw that out there, that DTS is a boot camp. It's like a boot camp for your walk with Christ, basically, right? I mean, we've seen change in you, more, I don't know, more direction maybe. I'm looking at Lisa like for confirmation, but so like more direction, more focus, right?
Yeah.
Like kind of like those things, and then stronger in faith, more bold and all that. And that, so you go through 3 months of DTS, and then what? Then where'd you go? I mean, we've talked about it, and we played one of your,
the clip,
the recording that you had sent me, or not sent me, that you had voice memoed me whenever I was traveling. So we did play that, and we talked about it, but now you're here. So what was that like? You're 3 months in YWAM, packing everything up you own, and you're on a flight.
Yeah, I want to say it another way. Like, what was your worst moment and best moment in those 3 months?
In the 3 months prior to outreach?
No, in outreach.
In outreach. Ew. That's really tough. I feel like the hardest moment for me in DTS, not spiritually, probably physically, the hardest moment for me was like our first week. You know, I received this kind of like nasty looking bug bite. We don't really know what it is even to this day. And I got massively
You mean on
infected.
outreach, right? Not DTS, on outreach.
Yeah, first week of outreach, yeah. And I got sick too. And like I always tell people this, I'm probably under exaggerating it. There's probably 100 flies in your body. Always, constantly. I mean, you couldn't eat food without eating some flies. You couldn't drink water, and they're all over you. And I was sick, and it was just miserable. I think that was like the hardest moment for me. Yeah.
So because we kind of covered it, but tell everyone, like, where'd you go? So you flew out of Kona, flew into where was your outreach?
So we flew into Tanzania, Africa. Yep. And our kind of, we'd say home base, where we kind of like had our rest periods, and our learning about the culture was in Arusha, which is like a Maasai city. And our first location was 10 days in Fereji. And that's like Maasai land. We had to get accepted to go there by the...
All right, so a treat at like, what's Maasai?
Maasai is a tribal people. And so they're one of the bigger tribes in Africa.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you got very little cell phone service while you were gone. But there were times that you did. And when you got this bite, it was several days before we actually knew what was happening. And you prefaced, before you sent me pictures, you said, "Mom, don't freak out."
Yeah.
And you sent me these pictures. And I will tell you, as a mom, seeing those pictures, because I looked at that picture of this just basically flesh wound that was clearly infected on your side of your, on your side. And I was like, those are the things that can actually kill you.
Oh, yeah.
Like straight up, because it's like you don't have proper, cleanliness. You're not, with the right medicine. And I'm just like looking at it, seeing that it is clearly not good.
And they would have evacuated me if it got to that point. But we were probably like 4-5 hours away from any hospital. And so they were like, okay, we're going to see what happens. We could get antibiotics really easily over there. And so we had antibiotics. And the locals, there's this tree, don't know what it's called. I know what it looks like, but basically it's like the sap of it that they could put over the wound. And that keeps all the flies away and helps infection. It was really cool.
You should have bathed in that.
No,
to keep the flies away.
We thought about it. It was, but it was toxic.
You're like, this key. Oh, okay. You're like, that's why they don't bathe in it.
All right. So you got that wound. That was week 1.
That was week 1.
All right. But like, what'd you guys do? Right. So you fly into Tanzania, your home base, there's a YWAM base there in Arusha, correct? And so your home base is Arusha. Then from there, you're pushing out to whatever tribe. So like, walk us through, like, what were you guys doing? What did God have in store for you? Like, tell us, like, What was going on?
So Arusha was kind of the time of we were like learning about the culture. And it was kind of weird because Tanzania has like a culture, but every tribe has its own culture.
Yeah.
And so we were learning about the Maasai people, like what do they believe in, their worldviews, the way they view this world, you know, and like even like culture appropriation, like what clothing can we wear? You know, the girls shouted to them, they could only wear skirts. The entire outreach. They had long skirts down to their ankles. You know, that was part of their culture. We couldn't wear shorts. So it was like learning about those kind of things. And then they said, okay, it's time to pack up and leave. So we were able to leave some stuff actually at the home base. So we only took what we needed and we went out and yeah, we drove, I think 4 hours. It wasn't that far away because of the roads were really bad. Like, you know, dirt roads and rocky and, you know, crazy. And so it took us about 4 hours to get to they're called bomas. And a boma is basically a family. And so like a preface to that, like their families are massive. I mean, like they believe that there's more women than there are men. And so their worldview is that multiple women have to marry one man. Yeah. And so like their families are massive. I mean, they have like 5 wives, bunch of kids. And so they all live in this boma, which is like a home surrounded by thorn bushes to protect them and the cattle from hyenas. Okay. And so we went to the first one, and this guy's like a pretty powerful politician in the Maasai world. So he's super rich because he had like 50 cattle. The average Maasai is like 3 cattle. And so it was really cool to like see. Like we showed up and they have all their cattle, their sheep, their rams, their lambs. It was super crazy cool. And yeah, but he was into Freemasonry and witchcraft, which he did not know until he eventually got kicked out. And he got kicked out because he ended up preaching the gospel to his whole family. And they all said yes to Jesus. He was not there, though. And he claimed that he was like, okay, you guys are supposed to pay me. But before all of this, we already had everything figured out. He was like, you can stay on Maryland for free. You guys are fine. Don't need to pay. But the minute we preached the gospel, that next morning, he's like, okay, pack up and leave. So we left, and we went right next door to another boma. And that's where the pastor lived. You could feel the spiritual atmosphere change. It was crazy. Wow. Even
so typically in a Burma or Boma, wherever you were at, like what is the practicing religion of where you're at? Like because Christianity is not very prominent.
Actually, Maasai, in Tanzania, I think it's like 60% Christian. Okay. But it's super kind of like twisted Christianity. Like you go to church on Sunday, but then go to the witch doctor on Monday.
Interesting.
Like that was a really common thing we would encounter. The Maasai people, I believe, are Christian and I want to say animistic. Like
agnostic?
No.
Or no?
Animism. Like animism is like sacrifice and worshiping like trees and plants and stuff like that. As far as I remember. Yep. And I think that's kind of like the Maasai people, what they believe in. So our first week was very much like, it's very slow. The Maasai people are very slow culture. They live around their cattle. And so we couldn't do ministry with them until their cattle was back or their entire life revolved around their cattle. And so it was super kind of hard ministry. Again, I was kind of out of commission that first whole like 10 days. I could barely walk. Yeah. So it was very much like I don't really know much about the ministry. Yeah. I know we did a lot of house to house or boma to boma, we called it. And we did like some Bible studies there. We kind of just helped the pastor out. We did a lot of prayer ministry, but that's kind of like a blurry
a fever-induced week for you.
So I don't remember much about the ministry there, but we got kicked out the second time. So that same guy found out we were still in the region, and so long story short, he complained to the head chairman. Head chairman claimed he never knew we were there, which is bullcrap, because like the sub-chairman and the head chairman communicate, and he ended up just kicking us out of the entire region. Wow. Then we went from like safari, like seeing giraffes and zebras every day, to going straight to like the mountains, like Cloudcroft almost, like mountain forest area. And that's where things really started popping off. That's where we started to see healings and a lot of salvations. And
so it's almost like, I mean, you'll get into more of that, but it's kind of funny because like if you didn't get kicked out of there, how long would you have stayed?
10 days.
Yeah, there, right? Then you guys have you shifted to the mountains or no? Right? So isn't it, you look back now, like then it was a problem, right? This guy lying, like kick these dudes out. We don't want these Christians here, and you guys get kicked out, and you guys are like, oh man, this sucks. Like, you know, what are we going to do now? But now looking back, it's like, man, we got kicked out of there. God shifted us to the mountains, and then
I mean, the biggest thing we saw in the mountains, obviously the salvations were beautiful and all of that, but the highlight for us is we met this man named Joseph, and he spoke English so well, and Swahili and Maasai, and so like he was able to be our translator, and without him we would not have been able to do any ministry in that next village we're going to. Like, he was the reason why we saw a revival happen in this village called Shadimoya. He's the reason why we were able to go to that mountain and do the gospel. Like, without him, things would have been impossible. No. You know, it's like God thing is that we just encountered him. He was never part of the plan.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And then he just joined us for the next 4 weeks.
He was a Christian.
He was a Christian.
Yeah. But that's pretty cool that, I mean, because I thought originally, that you guys had an interpreter with you, and they were assigned to you.
I mean, kind of. So our contacts did kind of speak English, but it was super broken English.
But this dude randomly
fluent in all of those.
Yeah, randomly just popped up, and we're like, man, this guy's like super chill. And then we ended up just like, he ended up hitching along without us even realizing it. Like, we're going to this one place called Maramba. Maramba. I think Maramba. And it was like a 16-hour bus ride. And we're getting packed up in the bus, and she shows up. And he's like, I'm coming with you guys. And we're like,
okay.
Perfect. But like, the cool thing is that we spent like 5 days in Maramba just being a help to the YWAM base there. They're trying to pioneer like an actual outreach center there. So we're just cutting down trees, we're hoeing, we're just making sure the land's like flat and just being a help, you know? And then we went, and they're doing water drilling, you know? So our mission was we're going to follow the drill. So they were doing water drilling there. That went 2 days over. So we're there for 5 days instead of 3. And then we went to this little village called Shadimoya. And without him, like our translator that was supposed to show up, Aliyah, he ended up having issues and couldn't get there. And our other contact, Letion, he couldn't show up either because his wife just had a baby. And so we're stuck with our amazing contact named her name is Mama Moni. We called her Mama. But she could barely speak English. And our other, I forgot her name.
But in general, it's amazing that this guy was there and was able to translate.
Miracle. I mean, literally zero ministry, like gospel ministry, could have been done
without him being there. Like, well, I see God's hand in that in like just such a powerful way. What I thought was always crazy is that you would often tell us, you know, some of your most amazing moments that you got to see God just boom in all these ways were just on off days where you guys decided to just go and do something. And I know we shared, you know, your voice memo from the mountain, but I know another one was when you decided that you guys were going to go swimming.
Yeah. So we're in this tribe called the Hadsby people, and really cool opportunity to be there. I mean, like, it's probably our most extreme tribe that we went to. I mean, they only live off the food they hunt. Yeah. Like, such an interesting people. They have a clicking language. I'm sure everyone's heard about them on Instagram and stuff. But yeah, very beautiful tribe. They're all pagans, you know, so they do witchcraft and sacrifice and worship their gods, you know. And I remember on our off day, we knew of a river or like a lake near us. And we just heard of it. We knew it was probably like a 45-minute walk. And we're like, okay, let's just go and swim. It was a long week, spiritually really hard. They had like a witchcraft ritual right next to us. So it's just like a tough week. And we're like, man, it'd be so nice just to jump into the water. You know, let's just go and do it. So we start going over there, and the locals are leading the way. You know, we're actually probably with the only believers in the entire Hadsby people, like 10 of them, you know, like completely unreached tribe. And so we're with the only believers that we know of, and they just started leading the way. We did not have a translator at all. That's important to this story. And so we start walking. They know a shortcut. So we finally get to this like lake town. And my goodness, like the way I like to describe it is if you're going to picture the Sea of Galilee in your mind back in Bible times, that's exactly what it looked like. I mean, people were pulling their boats into the mud. and taking fish out of their nets and like fixing their nets. And it was just such a beautiful sight. It was just so beautiful, right? And we show up to this mud, right? And immediately I'm like, yeah, swimming's not going to happen. Which, like, a little like backstory, I was like very excited to swim. The entire time I was like, man, I cannot wait to jump into some water.
There's
and
very
just,
few
like,
things you're not excited about, Gage.
Yeah, but like, man, I was like, it's gonna be so nice to unwind and just like get into the water and just like relax. Like, wow. We show up there, and all of a sudden we hear voices behind us. We turn around, and our translator, Letion, and Mama. And they were like, we heard you left without us, and man, we were running to catch up. Like, we saw your footprints, and we were just tracking you the entire way. And they ran. They're not like the most physically fit people, too. And so they really sacrificed that to catch up to us. And so we're like, oh my goodness, that's so cool, right? And I remember I was wearing those Costco hiking pants where you can unzip and it turns into shorts. So I was able to go into the mud.
Shout out Costco.
Shout out Costco. And I'm starting to walk in this mud, and it's going up to your knees. I mean, you have to like get there. But I just wanted to feel the water, that illusion that I might be able to swim. You know,
was still there.
It was still there. So I get over there, and I'm like, yeah, this is definitely not happening. But I decided to try to speak to the people. And so I walk over to a boat, and it's like a hi, and everyone like does like an awkward wave and smile. And then I'm just standing there, and I'm like, this is cool. Like, got to watch them for a bit. And I walked back, and I was like, man, like, we all felt it. Me and Emmanuel, we were talking about it, one of my teammates. And we were like, man, they just need to know Jesus. Like, we just had such a heart to tell them about Jesus. And I remember I looked at Mama, and I said, they need to know Jesus. And she said, yes, they need Jesus. And they just stood there. And I was like, man, I don't think we are like on the same page here.
I need you to start speaking what I'm going to say.
And so I look over at this little boat that's like way off the mud. Like, definitely like something's wrong with it. They're not using it. There's like 3 dudes and 2 girls there. So I walk up to them. I say, Letion, come here. Can you translate for me, you know? So I start preaching the gospel to them, and they're all like listening, and I'm just giving it to them like up in their face, you know, telling them about the love of Jesus and how he died for you, and just like such a beautiful story, you know? I actually give them the story about Jesus and fish. Yeah. You know? And I give them an analogy, and I tell them about Jesus and how he can provide for you and all these things. And all of a sudden at the end of it, he looks at me and he says, you know, we're Muslim. And I'm like, I did not know that, actually. And he says, but I've made my decision. I want to follow Jesus. Wow. And I'm like, okay. We had these SD cards, Bibles, which ended up being a problem. Apparently, like, they're always on the hunt for memory cards. And so the minute you pull out these memory cards, these SD cards, they don't realize it's just the Bible. And so we had a couple mobs start later on in the outreach when we discovered this. But we didn't know that, right? No. So I pull out this SD card. I'm like, this is the Bible. And they're like, please, like, they were desperate for it. Yeah. So I gave it to them. And all of a sudden, this girl, don't know how she learned English, but she yelled to me, she's like, I want one. Yeah. And I was like, do you know Jesus? And she said, no. So we go over, I started preaching the gospel to her. We get a word of knowledge that her hips hurt, and she's like, yeah, I have a lot of pain on my hip. We like lay hands. She's completely healed. And I just give them these, there's 2 of them. I give them both a Bible. We do the salvation prayer with them. And all of a sudden I look over, there's 4 of us, me, Mara, Emmanuel, and Kenley. And something I forgot to mention at that first boat was that the guy looked at me and Mara and said, oh, you guys have been here before. We've seen you. We have never walked that direction before. So immediately, Emmanuel and Kenley start to intercede because they're like, okay, we're definitely supposed to be here. Yeah. So they're walking around like going crazy in prayer, you know? I look over and I see Mara, and she starts to scream to the entire harbor. And she's like, giving the same exact analogy I gave. Yeah. But she was not there when I gave it. So like the Lord just highlighted the same story to us. You know? And she's just going out. She's going crazy over here, you know? And everyone stops what they're doing and starts to listen. And we ask, like, are you guys wanting to know Jesus? And they're like, yeah. And then all of a sudden we're like, okay, we'll come to you. Because they're saying, like, if you really want us to believe Jesus, you'll come to us. And so we're like, I actually just cleaned up. And I was like, okay. So I took my shoes back off. Kenley rolled up his pants. Emmanuel rolled up his pants. Mara lifted her skirt up like to her knees and started walking, you know. And shout out Letion. He ended up rolling up his jeans. He did not want to go into this mud. But we're all walking over there. And he leads the entire harbor into salvation prayer. And we're just passing out Bibles, and I saw this 80-year-old man like running to us to get this Bible. Wow. And I was able to count, because I was a log guy. I had to keep all the numbers.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And I was only able to count 40 people. Yeah. There was definitely more than that. But like over 40 people said yes to Jesus that day. And it was just such like a crazy thing. I mean, we walked back to the camp like, y'all check this out, because like Hadzapi was very much like a support believers ministry. We were supporting the believers. We were not doing much ministry. Yeah. Like, I mean, it was all ministry, but not much like street preaching or preaching the gospel. So we had this really cool opportunity, because a lot of us were getting down about that. And Mara hasn't preached on a Sunday yet, and so she was like, I really want to preach. Yeah. And then just this amazing opportunity, and like, we saw revival. It was absolutely amazing. Like, people like dropping their nets and coming to follow Jesus. Wow. Like, literally, like you read in the scriptures. Yeah. It was just such a cool like opportunity to see. It's probably one of my favorite locations was that spot.
I think it's cool because, one, you called me one time, and then you were like, I'm not supposed to share this, but I want to share this with you. And I think it was like the first time that you had seen like a healing happen, right? And and then multiple times we would talk, and you'd be like, just like you said, right? This lady, her hip hurt, you guys laid hands, and God healed her. And it was just like, so we're getting these stories back here, and I think it's interesting your perspective on it, because for us, I was like, this is amazing. Like, we don't get to see this, necessarily see this in the U.S., right? I've never personally seen a maimed hand, or the blind see, or the deaf hear. Like, I've never seen that, right? To actually happen, right? I've heard about it, things like that, but I've never seen it. But one thing like you highlighted wasn't even the miracles. You highlighted the salvations. And I think that was something that that Rich and I talked about, because it's just such a, I think that's what's been on my heart so much too, is eternity, right? Like, what matters is eternity. It doesn't, in the grand scheme of everything, it doesn't matter that your hand is messed up, or that you have a bad hip, or you're, all these other things. In the grand scheme of things, they don't matter. Yes, they matter. Like, of course, that's horrible. That's a horrible thing to have. But when you guys were highlighting, even when you came back from DTS or from the outreach and had the graduation and videos and sharing stories and all that, and on the graduation night, that wasn't even like a major highlight. Was we laid hands on people and they were healed. That wasn't the highlight. Was how many Bibles did we hand out and how many salvations there were. And I think that that's just so important, because that is an eternal thing. The miracles helped people see, like, like the mountain story, which I think is probably my favorite story that you tell. Yeah. But, so it's just, I don't know, it's just interesting to me.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about that, because so here you are in, another country, and, I think it's just beyond humbling when you hearing about Jesus, either for the first time or obviously in a very different way, because the Muslim faith portrays Jesus as a prophet, right? But they're not looking at him as a savior. And so when you get to know, like, Jesus is my savior, right? And the gospel message, I just, in your perspective, like, what is it, do you think, about America or us, like, as Christians here, that is this block that we have for sharing that?
As in sharing the faith? Or
sharing the gospel, sharing Jesus. Like, what is it that blocks us from doing that?
I think we like to stay in this place of shallow Christianity. Like, for example, I always hear people talk about living in holy sacrifice, and in John, where it says, pick up your cross daily and follow him. I never hear anyone say that outside of a spiritual sense. Even like certain groups I've been, they're always like, just spiritually, like laying down everything. Or I heard one person say like the verse that says like, like the greatest love is to die for one's brother,
Yeah,
you know?
John, yeah.
Yeah, and John. And he was like, yeah, I just felt like it was like super spiritually. And I didn't feel like I was in my place to call it out. Mm-hmm. But I only ever see that here. Almost like we like to stay in this like, what's the word? Let me try to find the word. Like this, crap. Like when something's like literal, but you don't take it literally.
Yeah. So what you're explaining is, pick up your cross daily, die to yourself, and then no greater love has this than one man that lays down his life for another. Yeah. And in our circles, our culture here, Western culture in America, we read those, and I've talked about it too, where it's like, oh, I pick up my cross, where it's like,
I didn't get on Instagram today. I'm like dying to self.
It's this metaphoric thing, right? Where what you're saying, and it's on the spiritual level, it's this metaphoric thing on a spiritual level. What you're saying is, no, are you actually willing to, and we're not, generally speaking here in the U.S., are you actually willing to die, like physically die? And
that's what I think I was trying to say. It's like we look at all the scripture. I'm not saying this is like everyone. No. I've seen personally a lot of people look at all the scriptures metaphorically. Yeah, they believe all the healings, they believe all that. When Jesus says, die for me, it's like, oh, yes, like obviously die daily spiritually. Yeah. But it's like, no, he also said, like, die. Like, don't you realize that the promise that we were given here on earth was that we will suffer for Jesus? That was like a guarantee. It was like, no, you're going to follow me, the world will hate you, everyone's going to hate you. So I don't like when people are always like, yeah, I got hated today for being a Christian. Like, it's a shocker. Like, no, like, literally in the Bible it said you will. And I think another thing that prevents us from speaking out in boldness is we care too much about what the world around us thinks. Again, it goes back into that identity. If you don't have a firm, true identity in Christ, you're actually going to find your identity in other things, what people say about you, what people think about you. And it goes back to that idea of, crap, I was going off and I just like brain farted.
Join the club, dude.
Yeah.
This happens to me all the time.
And I feel like it goes back to the idea of like, when we talk about, what's the word, bruh?
Bruh,
I don't know, bruh.
Bruh.
All right.
It's okay. You can take time to collect your thoughts. It's not like anyone's over here going like, oh, no. Okay.
Yeah. Like commercials coming up. No, don't worry about it. I think that, so another reason I think so, I'm kind of tongue twisted right now. The people like picking up your cross, like Jesus, when he was saying that to those people, then the cross was what? It was like the electric chair today. Yeah. Right. It was like the noose, it was this symbol and this reality of you are going to die. Like this isn't, so when he's talking to these people, he's talking about like, pick up your cross and follow me. He's literally saying what you're saying. He's saying, you follow me if you're willing to die. And I've talked about how, I think it's pretty hard to die to self daily and all that, but ultimately, what are you going to do? Kind of like you said, your DTS, where you had this epiphany, this calling put on your life of, are you afraid to die for Christ? Literal death, right?
And I feel like what they really emphasized on the DTS was the cross. And they were saying like, you're going to die on the cross. Like if you get the cross, you're going to die. But also like the cultural things back then was like, as a Roman citizen, you never even spoke the word the cross. Because it was like, if you were on the cross, you were then like basically shunned from, it was like the worst punishment. Yeah. Like almost Roman citizens were not able to be crucified. Like that's how bad it was. Yeah. It was like, if you were a citizen in Rome, like you wouldn't get crucified. That was like this idea, And something that we talked about was that from the cross to his death, it was suffering. And now they say that every disciple is a believer in Jesus, but not every believer is actually a disciple. Because Jesus had hundreds of followers throughout his ministry, but he had 12 disciples. Yeah. And what they were saying is that, no, a disciple is saying, I'll pick up my cross daily. I'm willing to pick it up and suffer and die. Yeah. And yes, spiritually every day, but also physically. I talked to some people that would literally walk into places that are considered by United Nations the most dangerous places in the world.
Yeah.
And they walk into there, and like people would say, man, you have so much faith, you're going to come home. And he literally said, I had no faith that I was going to go home.
Yeah.
I just knew where I was going to go. Because what better honor is it to die for Jesus? Obviously, you don't like purposely find a way to die for Jesus.
No, of course not.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're putting yourself in these places. When you were saying that, I was thinking about one, whenever you called us and you said, hey, we need prayer. We're getting ready to step into this one tribe where the witch doctor's there. And last time they tried to go, the dude got beat up. I think it was the recon guy, like the guy that goes ahead or something. I don't remember what exactly you were saying, but you were saying that you needed prayer because you're about to go there, and then also to pray for the other team in the other part of the world because they were being chased around by the secret police, and you were like, what an honor, right? What an honor is that to have to do that because you're sharing the gospel, because you're advancing the kingdom on earth,
I think when I'm listening to you talk, and you talked about the cross, but then you also talked about the other thing is that we fear other people here, and that our identity does become rooted in what others think, right? Instead of that eternal perspective. And I think that's so true. And then the other piece of the puzzle that I think is there is fear, that I think so many times when I'm, even talking one-on-one with people, it's this fear that I'm not going to do it right, or this fear that I don't know enough, or I'm not going to, I'm going to make this person uncomfortable, right? There's all these things like the enemy just has like lies over you. And I know this is very kind of random, but I really feel like I want to ask you to do this is, you have shared the gospel with so many people, strangers, right? You've walked up to strangers and shared the gospel, and sometimes you've been rejected, right? And some people say yes to Jesus. And I want to know if you would just give even an example, but if there's someone listening today and, they are just wondering, like, is Jesus worth following? Do I want to follow Jesus? That you can give an example of just like, this is as simple as the gospel message is. And so that even the people that are feeling like, okay, like I'm scared to do that. Like, what would you tell them? Like, this is as simple as it is. Like this is the message that you would give.
I would tell them that they don't have to keep doing it all by themselves. I feel like so many times we as humans, we like to try to like put this way. I described it to a friend, actually. It was, we try to personally take the burdens off our back, but if the burden's already weighing us down, we will be unable to take that burden off our shoulders. It's going to continuously weigh us down. And if you really think about it, if you don't have Christ with you or in you, you always have a monkey on your back. There's always like an emptiness. You're always trying to fill that something with something. Weed, drugs, sex, porn, whatever that may look like. You're trying to fill this void. And that's just the reality. Everyone does it. Everyone has an addiction. I've talked to people. Every single person has an addiction except Christians. And that's because you realize that God's your everything. You could say you're addicted to Christianity, shout out to that. I mean, why not, But Jesus like really is everything. Like you get to a place of like, wow, all I need to do, it's as simple as this, is falling down to your knees before Jesus and letting him take the burden off. And everything else just happens. I mean, you get to a point of like, okay, you get a fear of the Lord, like real fear of the Lord, not the fear of the Lord where you fear the Lord but still dabble in everything. It's like the fear of the Lord that when he speaks, you do. Simply as that, like understand the power of God. But when you find yourself at his feet, you realize that he stoops down at your level. He takes that burden off your back for you and says, just follow me. He doesn't give you this set of like 100 different rules. He just says, follow me. I'll meet you where you are. I met Christians who were newly found Christians, have a fire for Jesus and still cussed.
Yeah.
I never told them not to cuss because I knew God was going to work in their life and continue to help them grow. So I always told people it's the easiest, most difficult decision you'll ever make because it's so easy to follow Jesus. But then we caught up in what others think about us. Again, your identity and all that. So I feel like it all starts with knowing, I'm kind of going off on a different trail now, with knowing like humanity, what our identity is as humans. you having a personal identity of who God's spoken to you directly. Every person you ask them, what has God told you who you are, personal level. And it's like everyone's going to have something a little different, But as humanity, our purpose for life is to walk in alignment with Jesus.
Yeah.
And when you realize that, you realize there's no other reason to live. There's nothing. I mean, if you really think about it, 80 to 100 years is like nothing.
No.
And then you're like, okay, so I wake up, I go to a 9 to 5 job for the rest of my life, retire, probably have kids and somewhere in the middle of that, and then die. You know what I'm saying? Like, that sounds like...
Thanks for describing my life.
You only have death left.
Yeah, that's all I have left. I'm about to retire and then death. Thanks.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, that people have this mentality of like...
No, I know what
you know, and it's like when you realize that Jesus is everything, that like that's the only reason why you would live or breathe. And you really ask people, like, what's the purpose of life who aren't believers? And I ask plenty of people this, like, well, what is the reason for life? Like, why are you still walking? I mean, you're on the streets, you're homeless, you're doing drugs every day, you're getting beat up every night, you're sleeping with cardboard boxes. Like, what's the reason of life? And everyone's like, well, it's just having like that joy and like, all that. It's like, well, where is your joy? And like, you're literally here drinking. You're telling me all these problems with your family and how they've all rejected you. Why are you still alive? And nobody has an answer. But then I have these friends who were in prison. I have these friends who were witches. I have all these people that I knew personally, and their life has taken a 180, and they are the most devout Christians I know.
Yeah.
It's because they found that reason to live, I kind of went off on different things there.
That's what I asked you to do, because I just think there's always people, I think, that even listen in on here, and we're a marriage podcast, but we clearly are predominantly always going to point to Jesus, always. Like, we know the best thing that anyone can do for their marriage is to go after Jesus. And we pray that there are people who listen to this podcast who don't know Jesus and who make that decision.
Yeah.
And I think you summed that up really well for anyone that might be wondering, is that something I need to do? It's like, don't wait, make that decision, because not only for your eternity, right, but also for your marriage right now, also for whatever it is that you're facing right now. It's like, he's the answer.
Yeah. Earlier when you were talking about how Jesus was like, in the Bible, what's guaranteed to us is suffering, is these things, for being a Christian, right? Or even deeper than that, right? Like, I know what we mean when we say Christian, but what I'm saying, like, you're a follower of Jesus, like, these things are going to happen to you. And I heard a snippet of, I can't remember if it was Wesley Huff, that he was on Joe Rogan or, whatever it was, and they're talking about Christianity, and Joe Rogan was like, well, they're the only religion that's constantly attacked, like constantly, right? Like, people make fun of them, people can't tolerate them, like all these things over and over. And I think, I don't know this for sure, but I think that there's I think even Joe Rogan is kind of like trying to find this faith, right? Trying to find out who Jesus, I mean, I don't listen to his podcast, but so I think he's wrestling this out, but it's so true. Cause he's like, if it wasn't, a real thing, then would we even be really talking about it anymore? So like people that are even like, well, I don't even know if Christianity is real. And it's like, man, there's so much evidence, right? The Bible's not just some mythical book. Like, there is so much heavy evidence to support everything that's in the Bible.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll share this like one super fast story. You kind of mentioned it earlier. There was a guy, his name Aaliyah, actually, way before we ever showed up. He was like pioneering missions in the Messiah world. Like, he would go out to these villages and just preach the gospel, start churches. And Messiah people are normally really peaceful, but this one village was not, and they actually sent him like a death threat. And they're like, if you go to church on Sunday, we're going to beat you. And he's like, okay. He told the entire congregation. Every single person showed up to church. And believe it or not, they surrounded the church with their sticks and beat every single person. Their own wives, their own children, like everyone. They beat everyone at that church. But every single person saw that, and they were like, what the heck? That entire village is saved.
Wow.
Like, they are now starting DTS there in that Maasai town.
Yeah.
And you can see countless stories. Like, I know literally almost like every person in leadership at YLAM that I've talked to has all faced death one way or another. or encountered or gone to somewhere that's like that you're kind of stupid for doing that. Like, why on earth would you do that? And you say, well, because Jesus is worthy. And they're like, well, yeah, Jesus is worthy, but like you could die. And it's like, well, you know, God gave up everything with his son. Aren't we supposed to do the same thing back and give up everything for him? You know? And so I feel like it always comes down to like, if you want the proof, besides even looking at like the scientific evidence and like all of that, like look at the people who are dying every single day. I mean, look at Nigeria. I think over 70,000 Christians have been killed in the last couple of years. China, I think just the government in China right now is going on a rampage arresting Christians. You know, like look at the Dominican Republic of the Congo. They're killing Christians every day. Somalia. I'm not getting too much information to that, but like you could count on your fingers the amount of Christians in Somalia. Like literally went through the entire country, the terrorist organization, and killed every single Christian in Somalia. I mean, we're seeing like, why would you die? You know, I've asked people, I've asked Mormons, I've asked Muslims. Well, I take it back, I've not asked Muslims, but I've asked Mormons, Hindus, Buddhists. I'm like, if I put a gun to your head and I said, deny your faith or you're going to die, what'd you do? And every single person has said, I'll deny my faith. They're like, yeah, I'm not going to believe in Buddhists if it means my life. But you go to a Christian, specifically like a real follower of Jesus, like a disciple, someone who's actually like following Jesus with all their heart, they will say, shoot me in the head. Beat me up, torture me. Because you have a fear of the Lord. You're like, whoa, like something that I had like a revelation on is that Jesus' name is so powerful that every knee on heaven and earth should bow and beneath the earth should bow every time his name is spoken. Like that's how powerful, that's who God is. God is amazing, you know, like just to put it in like the most cringe American word ever. You know what I'm saying? He's amazing. But he's so worth dying for. You know, like if you're not willing to get tortured and killed for Jesus, then you should figure that out. Like you should get to that point of like, yeah, I'm willing to die for Jesus, because what is your faith? You know, like where's your faith? Like the reason we were able to see all these healings and miracles, number one, it's all the Holy Spirit. You know, we had a whole class on healing. Like it's just because God wants to prove that heaven is here on earth. That God is real. That's the only reason he heals an 80-year-old man to stand up, is to prove that God is real, to prove his existence. He doesn't have to, but he loves us enough to do that. But it all comes from this place of like, you know, we are all out, surrendered for Jesus. It's in those moments that he can actually work through you. You know, it's in those moments that you take that step of unpreparedness, knowing he's going to fully prepare you. Because it all comes from full, true, like surrender. Like you can't work through someone who's like refusing to be worked through. You know, like that's why so many people in America refuse to take that step of faith. You know, God's going to meet you where you are. Again, he's not going to just like, oh, you're not taking that step of faith, screw you, like live your life. No, he's going to be there for you if you're just living like a normal white picket fence life. But he does ask so many people to take a blind step of faith. And so many, and especially Americans, but I'm not just limiting it to Americans, refuse to take that step of faith because you're so scared where that's going to lead. Oh man, I see that person highlighted. Oh man, I don't really want to talk to them. I don't know what they think. I can name 3-4 stories right now that I'd RDTS because somebody went up. They had no preparation. They saw someone like God said to speak to that person. They went to speak to that person. At the end of the conversation, they found out that they were on their way to commit suicide. If they would have never talked to that person, they would have committed suicide that night. Like 3 stories off the bat that I could recall of these things happening.
And that was, I remember you telling me these stories. Those were in
Kona. This is not out in the nations. This is here in America.
Well, I think it's very encouraging, or it should be encouraging and also convicting. I think for all of us, when we listen to your stories and how God moves, and just to listen to his voice and to be bold in faith and courageous because you want to do what he calls you to do, and to have that fear of the Lord. And all of those things, I think just listening to you, it is just one of those things that you don't want to take lightly. You know, I want to make sure that you tell people too, like where they can support you or follow you too.
I was going to ask, like,
you can ask another question.
Like what? So I already know this, but tell everyone like what's your next steps, right? You're getting ready to do something here in a few weeks, but then beyond that, and the reason I want you to tell this, and I'm gonna say this before you talk about it, but everyone that listens to our pod knows of kind of what I do for a living, right? And something that hit me so hard one day was your mom. I didn't know the story, but your mom had said, I think we were downtown at they were having, like, there was a parade, right? And you saw another unit that's, that was similar to mine, like in the thing. And
it was your unit.
Yeah, but it wasn't. Yeah. Anyway, so you said, like, you told your mom, like, that's what I really want to do. Job. That's my dream job right there. And then your mom's like, well, you're old enough, like, go sign up. Like, you can do it if you want, like, it's fine. And then you said, like, no, that's God's called me.
You said that's not what God has for me.
That's not what God has for me. Yeah. And so I want to say that because in my world and that side, we as a unit want to go to the hard places. We want to get the hard things. We want to put ourselves in the most dangerous positions we can, because we know we're trained for it. And we want to, do what we can, right? We want to complete that mission, successfully. And in that, the underlining tone, right, that's not really even talked about when we're stepping off on a mission, the underlying tone is, I will, like, die for this dude that's next to me, and he'll do the same for me. It's just going to happen, or I will die for the person I don't know because they need help, right? So that's the heart behind, like, the quote unquote operator, right? Like, that's that heart behind it. And you have that same heart. So, like, I know it'd be a hard road, but I know you'd be successful if you decided, like, no, God's like, okay, yeah, go do that. Like, you'd be successful. And I understand that fully, but you're laying that down. And so what's exciting about that, one, is you're way more mature than I ever was at your age. But two is what God has put on your heart for further than in a couple weeks.
Yeah, I mean, just to get into the couple weeks thing, like, I'll be going to Nepal, and it's only a 2-week trip. It's not too long, We're going to go trek up the Himalayan mountains for 9 days, and we're just going to fill our backpacks with Bibles and bring Bibles to unreached villages. Like, it's not going to be easy, but it's been something I'm really excited about, getting trained for that. Beyond that, the Lord's calling me in the 2-year season of learning how to lead and learning how to disciple.
Through YWAM.
Through YWAM, yeah. So this is going to be through YWAM. I'm going through a school this January. It's a 3-month school, and it's all dedicated to learning how to lead in high-stress situations, leading your peers into these places, worrying about finances, all these things behind the scenes that you would not realize, plane tickets, dealing with, like, potentially wild, dangerous places, And so it's just like learning how to lead, how to disciple. And then that's 3 months. Then for 6 months after that, I'll either be scouting or leading a team. So both those entail, I'll be in a room with about 5-6 other dudes, and I'll just be discipling them, just living life with them, answering their questions, and being an example of what it means to be a man of God. And I'll be doing that with every man in the whole DTS. And then I'll proceed to, if I'm scouting, I'll go 4.5 months to a nation with 2 other people, and we're just scouting the land.
Yeah,
we'll
just
be praying. Yeah,
2 to 3 of you, boots on the ground first.
Yeah, and we're just scouting the land. We're trying to see contacts. We're trying to see if it's safe to send a team there. And if I'm leading a team, I'll be leading a group with a fellow co-leader, and we'll be going out with 8 other people, and we'll be leading them basically what I did, but I'll be a leader. So it's 2 years of that, and after that, I don't want to get into too much detail of everything, but it's going to be going to the hardest and darkest places around the world. It's saying yes to all those places that everyone else says no to, whether that's a war zone or it's too far out into the jungles to reach, or it's too scary, or like all these things, like whatever it looks like, we're saying yes to that. Yeah. And so I'm going into a seasoning of learning how to pioneer for a couple of years. How do I pioneer organization? And I'm learning a couple of things that I would not be able to learn through books or through like a school. But also I'll be doing a lot of schooling. I'll be doing some navigational schools. I'll be getting certified in a couple of things like scuba diving and stuff like that. I'll be going to some medical schools. And
so let me just like, because I know all this because I've talked to you for a long time about it. But let me tell everybody like the reason why. So one, navigation schools that, I mean, we all learn that is something that you need to have. Like you need to be able to like
navigate.
Yeah. Right. And like compass map and learn how to do all that stuff. But like the scuba diving part, which I think is super interesting. And what I want to tell everyone is the reason why it's not necessarily like this recreational certification you're getting. Yes, that is it, because that's what scuba diving is for a lot of people. But that is also a way to get into nations that don't allow you to openly share the gospel, correct? You know, and we're not giving away any nations or anything like that, or any like actual like trips or anything, but you can go into X nation. They don't want you to share the gospel, but you can go in and go recreationally scuba dive. Yeah. And so you can get in that way, and then from there have this submission of doing something else. I just was clarifying.
Yeah, no, it helps us go places where it's a little harder to go to.
Yeah.
And so, I'll be doing all these trainings in these schools, and that's probably what my next 10, 15 years looks like, you know, going full-time missions. But it all looks like finances are always a big part. Yeah. For sure. And like, again, I know no matter what, God's going to lead the way. You know, like I've heard countless stories of people never asking for a dime and out of nowhere receiving 10, 15, 100 grand. Yeah. Just like showing up at their doorstep because God said go, and they know God's going to lead the way. So I definitely have that faith to know despite the circumstance, I'll go. But it's nice to have that burden off of not needing to,
absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so what it looks like, if anyone's wanting to support, you know, I would love to get into more detail, like hop on a phone call with whoever wants to, and you could go to my Instagram page, DM me or DM my parents, and we'll definitely set up a call. But I'm looking for monthly support for at least a 2-year commitment. Yeah. And again, I could get into my whole financial plan on a one-on-one.
Yeah.
You know?
So what we could do is, on our Instagram, we'll share. We could share.
I'll link it in the show notes.
Yeah,
your
link it in the
Instagram.
show notes and all that. But also, if you guys want to DM us directly, then absolutely, please, and we can get you in contact. It's definitely like it's crazy to, you know, I've been asked like, oh, so what's Gage going to do next? Like, you know, what college is he going to go to and blah, blah. Yeah. And I look at someone and I'm like, no, man, like, I guess you didn't get it the first time. Like he's called to this. This is his career, you know, and it's inspiring. So yeah, please DM us, and we still do the show notes and all that stuff. But
it'll be such a blessing in any amount. Obviously, like I have a set amount in my mind, but I do want you to pray about it and be like, how much do I want? Like, how much does the Lord want you to give if that's something you want to do? And I'll be setting something up on EquipNet. That's what it's called. And I haven't done that yet. I'll definitely get it done by the end of November, and I'll have that completely set up. And Apple Pay, Cash App, Venmo, you know, all those things are definitely
available options.
Yeah. And like, again, for like my big thing for supporters is that I want them to realize that this is just not my vision. Like if you support me, like you are now a part of this vision that God has given me. Like you might not be like boots on the ground, hands on, but it's because of you these things can happen.
Yep.
Like it's because of you I could go to these places and the gospel can be shared. It's because of you guys I'm actually able to step out and do these things. So you are just as part of the mission as I am. And also like I'll have a WhatsApp or a Signal, a group chat, and you guys will be getting live updates weekly, daily about what's going on. Like be prayer for this, students are coming in, being prayer for this is going on. Be praying we're going into X nation, X, Y, and Z. Just be in prayer for us and like letting you guys know like, oh man, it's crazy opportunities coming up. If anyone's willing to give financially, like I need a plane ticket, I need some clothing. Like you guys will be like living my life with me, if that makes sense. Yeah. And so like, it's not just like those people you support and like, you're going to be forgotten. No, you guys will be actively a part of my life in every step. And yeah, I'm just asking for a 2-year commitment. I know that sounds crazy. I'm not asking too much from one person, you know. Again, if you want to give like one-time offerings or want to give a lot in a month, I totally am okay.
He'll say yes.
I'm not going to stop that, you know. I'm not going to be like, oh man, that's too much. I'll be like, oh man, let's get this figured out, you know. But yeah, I would love if anyone has like, if they feel their heart burning when I'm speaking about the hardest and darkest and the people that don't have that opportunity to hear the gospel, please help me out.
Yeah. And I just think like, just as your parent, you know, and thinking over your life, like I remember, you know, just seeing you from the time you were this little boy and, when you had something in your mind to try to shift that or refocus it or to, you know, whatever it was like the most insurmountable task for me. Like I remember praying that God would give me a stronger will than you when you were this little boy. But I also remember and even had other people speak over me as you were growing up, just like that God had something special for you. From the time you were a little baby, you got up early. Always. I don't think there's been a day in your life. I don't think 7:30, I think is the latest I've ever seen you sleep. But even in that, knowing, I was like, I mean, I've just contemplated as your mom, like, what is it that God has for him that it's like in him that I have to be up early, right? Like you're doing these various things. And I just think it's a really full circle moment, I think, for your dad and I to see you like all of these gifts that God put inside of you when it's aligned with him. It's just like, whoa, like that's the coolest thing because this passion within you, this vision that is unswayable in you with God's vision, it's like, I just know, like, yeah, I won't get in the way of that. Like, I will not get in the way of that because it's an honor. Like, it's an honor to see that, you know, and to see it being used in that way. And I think even if there's parents listening, if you see these gifts that are in your kids, you know, it's when used by God, it's just a really, really powerful thing. And we're super proud of you. I hope that people get on board and support you because I know that God has placed within you things that you didn't even share today, but that are definitely going to have kingdom impact. And I'm just excited to see what God's going to do through you.
Yeah, and I gotta talk to the parents real quick, y'all. All right, I've seen so many friends of mine who are stepping into full-time missions and their parents don't support them because they've had this vision in their mind for their life. And God is speaking to my friends or these people that I know personally. Like God's saying, no, I'm calling you to the nations. You need to go. But how much it destroys them for their parents not to support that. And how many times they're going to choose God over their parents. You know, again, like, yes, honor your father and mother, but you honor God above all else. Like if your parents are, again, pushing you away from Christ, then you got to pursue God. And obviously you honor them. You're not going to speak harshly about them and all these things. That's still honoring your parents. But support your son or your daughter who's stepping into this world of missions. Or if God's like calling or has a special calling in their life, you're actually going to tear apart your relationship with them just because they're following Jesus. Because you've had such a mindset of they're going to have this job, they're going to do this for the rest of their lives. It's actually you're going to fall apart doing that. And so support your kids. Support like the children you've had. If they want to step into this, like be there for them. Like I've never had the issue of my parents being like, oh no, we don't want you to do that. And that's taken a lot of pressure off of me. But I have friends who are like, my parents aren't supporting it. It's been really hard.
Yeah.
You know, because I have the people closest to me that raised me my entire life saying God's not telling me to do what God's telling me to do. And that's actually the worst possible thing you could do. Yeah. Again, yes, be sensitive to the Holy Spirit. If you're meant to call out your child, you call out the child. But also trust your child enough that God's speaking to them. You know? Yeah. So yeah, I just got to give a quick little shout out to the parents.
That'll be the challenge for the week.
Challenge. Yeah.
All right. We'll see you next week.
Awesome. Fire.